Hi again. My name is Rebel and I'm the Rebel Reseller. And today, a little bit different. I am going to go ahead and make the video of things that I sold in January that were over $50. Lots of people wanted that type of video. You know, somebody made the comment that, money's tight right now. So if they're going to spend any money, they'd like to be able to look for stuff that sells for, high dollar. So I went ahead and pulled the things from Etsy and eBay that sold for $50 and up for me. And then at some point next month, I'll do February, and we'll just keep doing that throughout the year. So I hope this gives people ideas of things to be looking for. Just as a reminder, for the most part, a lot of this stuff I pick up at estate sales. Not a whole lot of yard sales. Last year was a disaster for us as far as yard sales. Didn't find a whole bunch of stuff. So estate sales and the bins. Very once in a while do we actually find stuff in our thrift stores. And so we pay very little for most of this stuff. And it's stuff that you can find, You just, have to be, at the right yard sale or estate sale at the right time to get stuff to, make the higher dollar stuff.
One thing you got to remember when you're outsourcing is that you could source 5 great yard sales in a day. That doesn't mean they're all going to be good. You could have a bad one. The end of them could be bad. It also means, Rebel, that if you source 5 yard sales and you get nothing, that doesn't mean they're all going to be bad that day. The next one could be awesome. You just have to keep going until you get them, because one of them might be. And they might all be duds, or they might all be great. So Rebel is prone to
get flustered and want to go home.
I just want to go home because the first 3 are terrible. It's consistency in doing the job that you got to do, even when it's not working out for the first several.
Like last year, we didn't venture out very much, and maybe we could have done better if we had just wanted to leave our town and spend the day doing it.
Because the previous year we had done great in our town.
In our own town, yeah.
But maybe we should have gone to Johnson City.
So this year we're paying attention. Yard sales haven't quite picked up here yet. End of March. It should be any time.
If it's bad like it was this year or last year, we're going to go to Knoxville for a weekend and hit yard sales down there on like a Saturday or something.
Yeah, Knoxville, Morristown, areas that we never hardly ever go to. Just, and I encourage you to get into these, buy-sell trade groups in towns around you, because a lot of times that's where people post their yard sales. We have an amazing person in our area who every week puts together all of the estate sales in one post on Facebook, which is really good. And, she does it for Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So that way we can all keep up with the estate sales that are happening in our area. But also estatesales.net. There's a couple of those apps that you can use.
Yard Sale Treasure Map.
Yard Sale Treasure Map, but it actually ends up, you need to have somebody who's actually keeping it up for your area. But there's lots of apps out there that you can also use. All right, let me show you stuff that sold over, I picked a couple that were like $49 and something. They rounded up, $50 and higher. First one was this Lisa Frank Dancing Dolphin Jewelry Storage Box. I want to say I picked this up at the 100 Mile Yard Sale years ago. So it took a while to sell, and then it ended up selling on Etsy, but it sold for $62.95. Be careful with the Lisa Frank stuff. I've heard some people are starting to get Veros for inauthentic, because a lot of the newer stuff I think is not coming from Lisa Frank. So be careful with that stuff. And also, it used to be you could look up if you saw Lisa Frank with the capital letter L and F, that it was vintage. It's no longer that way. So, do your research. If you think it's vintage, it might not be, especially with the capital letters. So, you're going to have to do a little bit more research just to make sure. I picked this up at an estate sale that we went to with our friends who run an estate sale company. We actually helped them. I want to say I paid like $20 for one set of stuff and $25 for another set of stuff. I don't remember which. Some of it was turquoise, some of it was this. But these sold very, very quickly on Etsy for me. They are Majestic is the brand. Plastic crackle tumblers. And they sold for $80.95. And then on eBay, starting with lowest going up to the highest, jeans. When I can sell a pair of jeans for 50 bucks or higher, that's excellent. These were Versace 1969 Bigliamento. I don't even remember where we picked them up, but they sold for $49.68. Took a while though, almost a year. Mary Meyer. For the most part, a lot of the Mary Meyer is bread and butter, but you got to check comps. And not only, Terapeak is my favorite place now to check comps because you can look further than just the last 90 days because maybe somebody hasn't, only one person sold this. They didn't do their research and it sold for $9.95. You need to go into Terapeak and check the last 3 years and kind of see the trend of it. I'm not afraid to try to drag prices back up. When one person sells it too low and then the next person lists it too low and sells it. Sometimes I try to drag the price back up. But this little brown goat sold for $49.95. Next is this Little People Cabbage Patch Kids doll from 1978. I found her at a yard sale. I want to say I paid either $3 for her or $8 because I think that same weekend I bought 2 of them. She did have some stains on her face and her yarn hair had some issues. I listed her high and it took about 6 months for me to get an offer of $50 for her, so I went ahead and accepted it. You got to be careful with these older Cabbage Patch Kids. A lot of people made dolls that look like these. So you really need to be looking for like the signature on the butt. Let me go ahead and turn this red stuff off and I'll show you. That was her face. Her eyes had some issues. But this one actually had a tag that said the Little People. That's why up there it says the Little People Cabbage Patch Kids. Let me see if it had a signature on the butt. Yeah, but it was very, very faint right there. So make sure you see that. A lot of people also used to sign their own names in that area. So, look for the tags, look for the things, because I see questions every once in a while of somebody who thinks they've got a Cabbage Patch and they don't. Azuma, the game of reckless abandon. Bought that sealed in the box, sold for $50. Bantam. That is a vintage brand I find on occasion, but not very much. But pretty much anytime I find it, I'm going to go ahead and pick it up. This was a musical bear plush. The little head moved. I have a video showing exactly what it was playing and that it moved. And it sold for $49.95. Lego Duplos. If I find them at a yard sale, couple of bucks for a bunch of them, I'll pick them up. If I find them in the bins at the Goodwill outlet, I can get a bunch of them with people and specialty blocks and all of that. I'll pick them up. But, to find a few here and there, I don't tend to pick them up. These were specialty blocks with people and animals. Pretty decent lot. And it sold for $49.95. American Girl doll. This was Julie. Not all American Girl dolls sell for a bit, quite a bit. Some of the newer Truly Me or whatever they're called, a lot of times I'm only getting $20, $25 for them. This particular one, though, was one of the older dolls, and I took an offer of $52.46 for her. Miro pressure canner cooker, sold for $50. I don't remember where we picked this up at. Probably paid $5 or so for it, though. I found this, I think, at my favorite little estate sale company. Paid like $8 for a bag of them. I think Dumbo ended up having one little chip on it, which I'm surprised because they were just in a bag, loose. Who knows how many people picked it up and looked at it. But this set of 9, they were from 1987, porcelain, and they sold for $59.95. Fiesta Homer Laughlin bowls. We stopped at the Columbia, South Carolina bins on our way back when we went down to Florida to visit my friend Shannon. Ended up picking up a huge tote of this Fiesta ware. I didn't realize the difference. Homer Laughlin and then some of the other Fiesta. This was just the small bowl lot. It sold for $51. I think at that outlet store, it's like 29 cents or 49 cents for breakables. I think that whole tote, as heavy as it was, ended up only being like $8 and something for all of it. I think this is the only stuff so far that has sold, but we've definitely made our profit on it already. Walmart. I love picking up the vintage Walmart. Not all of it is, you know, high dollar stuff. This was a nylon blue dog. Again, I'm just going to say this. I do it every time when I have non-Fisher-Price nylon plush. Only Fisher-Price is Puffalump. Don't use the word unless it is Fisher-Price. And as you can tell, it doesn't make a difference not including that word. And you could potentially get a Vero if you use it inappropriately. This vintage Walmart plush sold for $59. Axlon bear plush. Y'all, this sold immediately. I picked it up at one of our thrift stores when we were just out and about checking stuff out in Elizabethton, which is what, probably 45 minutes away from here. I want to say I paid up like $5 or $8 for it, but it sold instantly. It's from 1985 and it sold $59.95. It's supposed to make sounds, but it just was making like a random noises. I went ahead and put a video of it because I think it might have needed to make like either cooing or crying or that whoop whoop sound. I don't know how else to explain it, but it wasn't making those sounds.
There it is.
This was in just this case. Robert, I think, picked this up at one of our estate sales. Could have been maybe our favorite little estate sale. I can't remember. I want to say we paid, again, $5 or $8 for it. And they took probably like 2 months to sell. I took an offer of $60 for them.
So I have to interrupt this broadcast for Sassy Squirrel Stash. I appreciate you calling this the wrong thing like Rebel does, so she's not alone in calling things the wrong things. She's felt much better knowing she's not the only one.
Tape measurer. Tape measurer. Sassy Squirrel Stash. Just ignore him. We're together. All right. Lego Duplo again. You know what? I'm thinking this was a huge tote that I picked up. I want to say at a thrift store or something. I can't remember because I ended up separating things, you know. Some things I put together in sets. It took me a while. I sat upstairs and looked up, you know, I would Google Lens one piece and then I'd find out what set it went to, and then I would either try to find the picture of it online or I'd go to eBay and see what other people had. Just it's tedious, but in the end, anything that I didn't put in sets, I just started making lots. These were mostly like vehicles and vehicle parts, and it sold for $58. Hazel Village. I have only found that brand a couple of times. I've always done well with it when I have. This was an owl. They're made out of organic cotton from 2012, and it sold for $67.96. Play School Snuzzles. Now I have several of them for my wall. I want to say I picked this up at the bins or something once upon a time. This one is considered the thumb-sucking bear, and it had some discoloration, and it still sold though for $79.95. Playmobil. Now I paid, I want to say about $80 for like 5 huge totes of Playmobil at an estate sale. It sat here probably 3 years. Took me forever to get going on them.
You know what she got going in? I took them in and set them down by her workstation and said, time to do it.
Filled up all of my space with it. So that's what I did. A lot of it, as you're going to see here, because I sold quite a bit of this right after I listed them. But I took like a 12 by 12 by 10 box for a lot of the miscellaneous pieces. And I filled the box with as much as I could, dumped it out, and then took pictures and then put it back in the box, sealed it. I had the correct weight, I had the correct dimensions, and it's, you know, I've sold several lots of them already, but I had a lot, and I still have some I haven't gotten to. I'm terrible for getting to the point where I'm almost done and not finishing. But these wagons, I thought about listing them individually because some of them were pretty hard to find. But I don't think any of them were complete. They were missing pieces. I had extra pieces to I don't know what, that I just decided to put all of them together. And they sold the same month I listed them. These 5 wagons sold for $80. All right, Fisher Price Little People Nativity. Y'all, I dug all of these out of a bins at the St. Louis Goodwill outlet. It took me forever to just keep getting and keep getting. I had never seen these little tent sets and that little backdrop. I just decided I was going to make one big lot of everything. Listed it kind of high, and then took me about 5 months, and I took $100 offer on these. A lot of times, you know, I do make small lots out of these, but this particular one, because I had so many pieces and a lot of it was really hard to find, I just decided to keep it all together. All right, picked this up at, I want to say it was the Red, White, and Blue store when we were down in Florida. I think there they call it something else. I can't remember what it's called, but it was bought by Red, White, and Blue. Paid a couple of dollars for this, but this was Madame Alexander tiny Little Women dolls. These were the 6.5-inch size. There was no box, but it was still attached to the box insert, and sold for $100 offer. So anytime you see, you know, dolls, especially when they're still in excellent condition like this, I don't typically pick up Madame Alexander dolls, especially these smaller ones, but these just were different. Care Bears, True Heart Bear. I'm trying to remember where I got this from. I don't remember. Oh, I do remember. This was from the Habitat Restore in Johnson City. I paid $5 for it. It had a couple of little issues, and it sold, same month I listed it, for $99.95. But y'all, this is the big one, 27 inches from 2005. But I guess this True Heart Bear seems to be harder to find. Even the smaller ones sell for quite a bit. Terry cloth plush. I'll tell you guys all that. If you see terry cloth plush, definitely pick it up before somebody else can, and then check comps. Some of it, you know, might be 20, 30 bucks, and then you find stuff like this. This brand is First Peak. It had the color block, which, you know, just kind of the green, the pink, the white, but it was an 8-inch rattle bunny, and it took about 2 months to sell for $120. Now, there's people know to look for the Carter's ones, the Fisher Price ones, the Eden ones, but even if it's an off-brand that you don't hear about very often, definitely check. Baby Linda doll from Terry Lee. I bought a large lot of Terry Lee dolls, the baby, 2 of the larger 16-inch dolls, a bunch of the clothes and shoes. Some of it was handmade. I paid $65 for all of it. I've sold the shoes, some of the clothes, individual pieces, and then I sold this baby Linda set. Took a best offer of $100 for her. All right, everybody was shocked when I showed this sale. I picked these up when we were down in Florida visiting Shannon. Went to America's Thrift. Is that what it was called? I think it's America's Thrift. I could be wrong. Could be getting that mixed up with the place in Knoxville. But I bought these 2 House of Hatton Christmas wreaths. They had discoloration. I think I paid like $2 something each for them. The person that saw these ended up buying both of them. She sent me a $60 offer for each, which, you know, 2 to 60 I'll do. And they sold the both of them for $120. Anytime you see House of Hatton, and some of them are ornaments that do really well, but a lot of times they're just little like cloth ornaments and stuff like that. St. John women's dress. Picked this up at my favorite little estate sale company. I either paid $3 or $5 for it one of the first days there. I had never found St. John in my life, and so I was thrilled. And it took a little over a year to sell $129.68. Robert picked these up at a yard sale. Where were we?
Columbia, South Carolina.
Columbia.
Coming back from Florida.
Florida. Paid either $5 or $10 for them. Can't remember because we bought some that were $5 and some that were $10. They had their paper tags. This one was Wolverine Durables. Leather boots from 1985. Large size, 13. And they sold in less than a month for $99.95. More of the Playmobil. I just decided to put all the little figures and hats and loose arms and all of it together in one big lot. Again, sold the same month I listed it. It ended up being about 70 figures with extras, and they sold for $135. Another set of the Playmobil. This was probably the best of the boxes. I tried to get all of the castle parts together as much as I could fit in that one box. I've had a couple of people sending me low offers on the others because they're mix and matched, and encouraging me to go ahead and separate them out into the original sets. Too much work. They can buy it and do it. Nevertheless, this set sold for my full asking price of $149.95. Again, I paid, I think, $80 for all of it. And then this. Y'all, this is funny because I listed this a couple of years ago, and somebody asked me a question about was something working and I didn't have pictures of it. So I took it down with all, you know, intent on going in, looking to see if that part worked, take another picture, and it just kind of got shuffled off to the side. I didn't deal with it for over a year. Then I realized I had lost the listing. Luckily, I found it on Mercari in the unsolds that I had just deactivated on there. Went ahead and, you know, transferred over the listing back to eBay, updated the pictures, and it sold the same month I listed it for $150. It's Department 56 Crystal Gardens Conservatory. I paid $25 for it at a yard sale, and yeah, $150, but man, it turned into this long, drawn-out project. Hope you guys got some good ideas of things to be looking for, but again, always, you know, look stuff up, check the sell-through rates, go on Terapeak, see, you know, not just what sold in the last 90 days, what sold in the last couple of years. And just, have fun looking.
And if you're at a thrift store or a sale, yard sale, or anywhere, and you see something, you don't know what it is, look it up. Just see what the thing is.
Google Lens.
Google Lens it. Go over and look at the back of it and type in the name and model number or something. You'll be surprised what you find sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Seriously, that was $5 into $2,000 for us one time.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know what it was. What is that thing? It's $2,000 is what it is.
Exactly.
And a lot of times it's more like $20, but you never know.
You never know. All right, y'all. It's time to get to work or eat lunch. Bye.